The city was alive with noise, but it was not the kind of noise that made hearts happy. It was the sound of cries, of whips, of merchants shouting prices, and chains dragging on the ground. The human walked slowly through the market, his boots pressing dust into the cracked stones above him. Banners of alien symbols waved in the hot wind, painted with the colors of power and cruelty. He had seen markets before, but never one like this. Cages lined both sides of the street, filled with creatures from many worlds. Some were strong and fierce, others weak and broken, but all shared the same look in their eyes: hopelessness. The smell of sweat and fear hung in the air, mixing with the bitter smoke of alien torches. The human kept his head down, pretending to be just another traveler. He had no plan to stop, no plan to interfere, but fate often laughs at men who think they can walk away. His eyes shifted from one cage to another, until they froze on something different. Not a beast, not a warrior, but a girl, an alien girl, small and thin, chained like a dog to a wooden post. Her skin shimmered faintly, pale with strange glowing marks running along her arms. Her silver hair was dirty and tangled, falling across her face. She looked no older than 17 in human years. Though it was hard to guess her true age, her body trembled. Not from cold, but from hunger and exhaustion, and then it happened. She lifted her head, her bright eyes locking onto his. Her lips parted, and in a broken voice, she whispered words that cut through the market noise like a knife. "Can you buy me, and take me as your slave?" The human froze. He thought he had misheard, but her voice was clear, trembling but desperate. She was begging, not for food, not for water, but to be taken away. It was a plea filled with shame and hope at the same time. The merchant standing nearby noticed his gaze and grinned. "Ah, you like that one, human?" the alien said, his voice sharp and mocking. "She's worthless, weak, not even good for labor. But pretty enough if you know what I mean." He tugged the chain around the girl's neck, making her flinch and lower her eyes. The crowd nearby chuckled cruelly. Enjoying the scene, the human's fists clenched, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had to think buying slaves was dangerous, against everything he believed, but leaving her there felt worse. He tried to step back, but her eyes followed him, glowing with desperate hope. It was like invisible hands were pulling him closer to her. Her whisper came again, softer this time, only for him. "Please, take me away." The sound of her words burned inside his chest. He remembered battles he had survived, friends he had lost, and the long road that had brought him here. He never thought one voice could break him like this. The marketplace around him blurred. The laughter of the merchants faded. All he saw was her, chained, trembling, waiting for an answer. The merchant slammed a stick on the ground, snapping the human back to reality. "Do you have coin or not?" he barked. "Don't waste my time, human. This one is cheap. Nobody else wants her. Take her or walk away." Cheap. The word echoed like poison. How could a life be cheap? How could a living being be measured like bread or cloth? The human's jaw tightened. He looked at the girl again, her hands thin, her wrists bruised from the iron cuffs, her body weak, yet her spirit still alive in her pleading eyes. Every instinct told him to leave, to avoid the risk, but his heart refused. He took a slow step forward and the crowd leaned in. Sensing something unusual, the girl's lips trembled as she whispered once more, "You are my only chance." The human's hand moved to the pouch at his side. Inside were the last of his credits, barely enough to keep him alive for the next few weeks. If he gave them up, his future would be uncertain, maybe even doomed, but if he kept them, she would stay here, chained like an animal. Her future already gone, the merchant's grin widened. Sensing hesitation, the crowd chuckled again, waiting for the human to walk away like so many others before him. But the human's eyes stayed locked on hers, and in that silence something changed inside him. He had made his choice. The merchant's grin stretched wide as the human stepped closer. The alien's four eyes glittered with greed, his long fingers rubbing together like a spider waiting for its prey. Around them, the market crowd pressed in, eager to see what would happen next. It was rare for a human to show interest in a slave, even rarer for one to actually make a purchase. The girl stayed quiet, her lips pressed tight, but her trembling hands reached through the iron chain. Her eyes never left the human's face, as if her life depended on his next breath. The air around them grew heavy, thick with tension, the kind that made even the cruel laugh of the merchants fade. The human's voice came out low, almost steady, though inside his chest his heart hammered. "How much?" he asked. The merchant's laugh exploded like thunder, sharp and mocking. "Ha! Finally, he asks. The alien sneered, jerking the girl's chain so she stumbled against the wooden post. She's weak, half-starved, no strength left in her bones, worthless in work. But maybe entertaining for someone like you. His words slithered into the crowd, making them roar with cruel amusement. The human's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. He had learned long ago that anger was a weapon enemies loved to see. Her price, the merchant continued, raising his clawed hand, is 10 silver credits. He smirked as gasps spread through the crowd. It was more than most slaves here were worth, and everyone knew it. The human frowned. That much for someone you call worthless? He said slowly. The merchant's grin widened, his teeth sharp like broken glass. Worthless to me, perhaps, but worth something to you, he hissed. You think I don't see it? The way you look at her, the way she looks at you. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You want her freedom? And that makes her valuable. The human's stomach twisted. The alien was right, and worse. The crowd could see it too. The more he cared, the higher the price would climb. Every eye in the market was locked on him now. Eager for the show, eager for the failure. The girl's whisper broke the silence, so soft it was almost lost. Please. Don't let go. Her voice cracked like dry glass. Fragile but desperate, the merchant yanked her chain again, silencing her, but the human had already heard. Her words pierced through the noise, louder than any shout. The human reached into his pouch, feeling the weight of the coins. Not enough, he realized, not even close. The merchant's grin deepened as if he could read the doubt in his face. You don't have it, do you, human? The alien jeered. Walk away, pretend you never saw her, and save yourself the shame. The crowd laughed, their voices sharp and cutting. But the girl's eyes burned with something stronger than shame, stronger than fear. She looked at him as if he were not a stranger. But her only lifeline in that moment, he understood. If he left, she would not survive another day. I'll give you 5, the human said firmly. Pushing forward half the pouch, the laughter grew louder. 5? For this rare treasure? The merchant mocked, pulling the girl closer as if showing her off. No, 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 10, not a coin less, he spat at the ground, his claws clicking against the chain. The human's mind raced. He thought of the food he could no longer buy, the roof he would lose, the dangers that would follow. Every coin he gave was another step into the unknown, another door closing behind him. But he also thought of the girl's trembling hands, the scars on her wrists, the tears she held back. He thought of the words she had whispered, please. Slowly he dropped more coins into the alien's hand. 7, 8, the pouch was almost empty, his future slipping away with every clink of metal. The merchant's eyes glowed brighter, his tongue hissing with satisfaction. One more, he demanded, one more coin, and she's yours, the human hesitated, the last coin in his hand heavy like a stone. Without it, he would have nothing left. No safety, no way back. The crowd leaned in, holding their breath for the final choice. The girl's eyes filled with tears, her lips moving silently, whispering the word again, please. The human's hand shook, but he dropped the last coin. The merchant snatched it greedily, his laugh echoing across the market. Done, he shouted, raising his claw. The human is a fool, and the girl is sold. The crowd cheered, mocking and cruel. But the girl collapsed forward, her chain slack, her eyes shining with weak relief. The merchant shoved her toward him, and for the first time the human caught her in his arms. Her body was light, too light. As if half of her life had already been taken, she looked up at him, tears slipping down her dirt-stained cheeks. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. The human's chest tightened, not from pride but from fear, because in the shadows beyond the crowd he saw them, figures cloaked in armor, their glowing eyes fixed on him and the girl. They had been watching all along, and as the human held the girl close, he knew the bargain was only the beginning. The real danger was just stepping forward. The merchant's claws scraped against the girl's collar as he unlocked it. The sound of metal grinding free was sharp, cruel and final for the first time in years. The chain that held her neck fell to the dusty ground. The girl gasped, her trembling hands rising slowly as if she did not believe the weight was gone. The human caught her before she fell. Her body sagged against him, fragile as a dry branch. Her skin was cold and her pulse weak, but her eyes shone with a strange light. She clung to him as if letting go meant death. The crowd around them jeered and laughed, their voices sharp as knives. Look at the fool human, one alien sneered. He bought himself a burden. Another spat at the ground. She won't last a week, not with scars like those. But beneath the noise, whispers curled like smoke. Whispers of soldiers, whispers of owners, whispers of trouble. The merchant shoved the last of the coins into his pouch, grinning with sharp teeth. "Take her and go, human." "Before I change my mind," he barked. His tone was mocking, but his eyes held a flicker of fear. He knew something the human did not. Something about the girl he had just sold. The human lifted her gently, his arms steady though his thoughts raced. Every step away from the market felt heavy. The air seemed colder, the shadows thicker, as if the city itself watched them leave behind them. The laughter of the crowd echoed like a curse. The girl pressed her face against his chest, her whisper trembling against his shirt. "I thought I would die there," she said softly. Her voice was weak, but it carried years of suffering in every syllable. The human tightened his hold, his jaw set. "Not anymore," he answered, though fear coiled deep inside him. The streets twisted like a maze, lined with broken lamps and silent doorways. Alien merchants packed up their stalls, their eyes following him with suspicion. He felt the weight of unseen gazes pressing on his back. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound too sharp, too close. When they turned a corner, the human caught sight of them. Figures standing still at the end of the alley, their armor dark and heavy, their glowing eyes like coals in the night. They did not move. But their presence was louder than any shout. The human's breath caught. These were not common guards. They carried themselves with the stillness of hunters. He turned quickly, guiding the girl into another street. But he knew they were following, their steps silent, patient, waiting. The girl lifted her head, her lips pale. "They will come for me," she whispered. "They always come." Her eyes were full of dread, but also of something deeper, knowledge. The human frowned. "Who?" he asked, but she shook her head weakly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Not here. Not now." The human pushed forward, weaving through narrow passages. His arms ached from carrying her, but he refused to let go. He found an abandoned doorway, its frame cracked and hidden in shadow. He stepped inside, pressing his back against the wall, his breath loud in the silence. The girl sat against the corner, her hands still shaking, her wrists bore deep bruises. Old scars layered with fresh wounds. She touched the faint glowing marks on her skin, lines that pulsed like fire beneath her flesh. The human stared, realizing they were not scars but symbols. Strange, ancient, and alive, he crouched beside her, his voice low. "What are those?" Her eyes flickered, fear and shame mixing in her gaze. "They marked me, to show who I belonged to," she whispered. Her words cracked like glass. "They said I was cursed, that I was dangerous. So they chained me tighter than the rest." The human's fists clenched. He wanted to rage, to break the world that had broken her. But he swallowed his anger, knowing silence was safer. Instead, he touched her shoulder gently. "You don't belong to them anymore," he said firmly. "You're free." The girl looked at him, her lips trembling. For a moment she seemed ready to believe, ready to hope. But then her gaze flicked to the doorway, her body shrinking into the shadows. "They are here," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human followed her eyes. Through the crack in the broken wall, he saw movement, the same armored figures, silent, patient, waiting in the dark. Their glowing eyes burned like torches. They had not attacked, not yet. But they were watching. The human's breath slowed, his hand tightening around the knife at his belt. He knew they would not let him walk away so easily. The bargain was done, the chains were broken, but freedom was not free. The girl clutched his arm, her voice a trembling plea. "They will not stop," she said, "until I am theirs again." The human looked into her eyes. Her fear was real, but so was her strength, hidden deep. He pulled her close, shielding her with his body as the shadows outside shifted. If they wanted her, they would have to go through him. And in the silence, with the hunter's eyes glowing just beyond the wall, the human knew the true fight had only begun. The night was heavy with silence. The human sat inside the broken shelter, his back against the wall, one hand gripping the knife at his side. Beside him, the alien girl curled into herself, her breathing uneven, her body still trembling from the fear of being hunted outside. The armored figures had disappeared into the shadows, but he knew they were not gone, only waiting. A weak fire burned in a corner, its light flickering across the girl's pale skin. Her glowing marks shimmered faintly, pulsing as if alive. The human stared at them, unable to look away. They were not random scars or painted symbols. They carried meaning, power, history. He leaned closer, his voice calm but firm. "You have to tell me the truth," he said. "Who are they and why do they want you?" The girl lowered her head, her long silver hair falling like a curtain. For a moment she stayed silent, her thin fingers gripping the fabric of her torn dress. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Finally she whispered, her voice raw and broken, "I was not always a slave." The human's eyes narrowed. He had guessed as much, but hearing it from her shook something inside him. The girl lifted her hand, tracing the glowing marks along her arm. "These are not chains," she said softly. "They are inheritance." The firelight revealed her eyes, bright, sorrowful, filled with memories too heavy for someone so young. "My people were once rulers of a province," she whispered. "We were guardians of knowledge, protectors of old secrets, but we became enemies of the throne." Her voice cracked as she hugged her knees closer. "The soldiers came one night, burned our homes, slaughtered our families, and took me alive." The human's chest tightened. He could see it in her eyes, the fire, the screams. The smoke etched forever into her memory. "They said I was cursed," she continued, her voice trembling, "that my blood carried danger, that my family's power would destroy the empire if I lived free. So they branded me with these marks, chained me so no one could ever trust me." Her words echoed in the broken shelter like a ghost. The human clenched his fists, fighting the anger rising inside him. He had seen cruelty, but this was something else. This was fear dressed as control, chains forged from lies. The girl touched the scars on her wrists, her eyes glistening with tears. "They called me the Marked One," she whispered. "No one dared come close, no one dared speak to me, not even the other slaves." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "Until you," the human felt her words cut deeper than any blade. He had done so little, just chosen not to turn away. Yet for her it was everything. "You're not cursed," he said firmly, his voice steady even as anger burned inside him. "You were never the danger, they were." But the girl shook her head, fear still gripping her heart. "You don't understand," she whispered. "The marks are more than symbols, they are a key." Her glowing skin shimmered brighter for a moment. "They say my blood can unlock something hidden, something powerful, and that is why they will never stop hunting me." The human's breath slowed. This was no ordinary girl, no ordinary slave. She carried something the Empire wanted, something worth killing for, worth burning villages for. He looked at her, fragile yet unbroken, and felt the weight of the choice he had made. The silence between them stretched, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Outside, distant footsteps echoed, then faded again, reminding him they were never truly safe. He leaned forward, his voice low. "Then we fight," he said. "They will not take you back." "Not while I breathe." The girl's eyes widened, her lips trembling. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered, her voice full of disbelief. "Every hand that touched me only wanted to sell me, use me or hurt me, never save me." Her tears fell freely now, shining in the firelight. "And yet you risk everything for me." The human reached out, his hand steady, and placed it gently on her shoulder. "You asked me to take you away," he said quietly. "And I did, now I'll keep that promise." "No matter what," the girl stared at him, searching his eyes for the first time in years. She saw no greed, no cruelty, only resolve. Something inside her chest ached, a mix of pain and hope she had long forgotten. She lowered her head, whispering softly, "Then I will trust you." The fire burned lower. The shadows deepened, but inside the broken shelter, a fragile bond had been forged. The girl, once a chained slave, had revealed her past, her truth, her curse. The human, once a stranger, had chosen to bear the danger with her. And outside, in the dark alleys of the city, unseen eyes still watched, glowing, waiting. The night was far from over. The hunters had not given up. The Empire's reach was long, and its hunger for her blood unending. But for the first time in her life, the girl was not alone. And for the first time, the human knew his fight was no longer his own. The night was restless, the city alive with whispers of danger. The human stood near the doorway of the ruined shelter, his knife tight in his hand. The alien girl sat weakly against the wall, her glowing marks faint but steady, her eyes heavy with fear. They had both felt it. The hunters had not left, they were only waiting, patient as wolves. A sudden sound cracked the silence, boots heavy and sharp, striking against stone, echoing closer. The human's heart quickened. He peered through a gap in the broken wall. Shadows moved in the street. Soldiers in dark armor. Helmets glowing faintly, their weapons ready. "They are here," the girl whispered, her voice trembling like dry leaves in the wind. Her body shook as if her chains still clung to her. Though they were gone, the human crouched beside her. His voice calm but firm. "Stay close to me, no matter what." He helped her to her feet, her body weak but her spirit burning with the need to live. Together they slipped out the back of the ruined shelter. The streets beyond stretched like a maze, filled with broken lamps, silent alleys, and shuttered doors. Every corner was another trap, every shadow another threat. The human kept one arm around her, guiding her forward quickly. But behind them, the soldiers spread out, their heavy boots pounding, their voices sharp and commanding. "Find the marked one growled, his voice cold through the helmet. "She must not escape," another answered. The chase began. The human pulled the girl into a narrow alley, their footsteps echoing against stone. The night air cut through their lungs, sharp with the smell of smoke and fear. The girl stumbled, her legs weak, but the human lifted her into his arms. Refusing to leave her behind above them, alien banners waved in the hot wind, marking the city's ownership by cruel hands. But tonight the city felt like a living beast watching, waiting to devour them. The human turned corner after corner, but no path stayed safe for long. Everywhere he looked, armored figures closed in, silent, steady, unstoppable. The girl buried her face against his chest, whispering in broken breaths, "They will take me, they always do. They never stop." Her tears burned his shirt. But the human shook his head fiercely. "Not while I'm here," he answered, his voice low but unshaken. They reached an open square, the moonlight spilling across broken stalls and shattered crates. For a brief moment the space seemed empty, silent. But then the sound came. Boots, dozens of them pounding from every side. The hunters had cornered them. The human placed the girl down gently. Pulling the knife from his belt, his body was tense, his heart racing, but his eyes steady. The soldiers stepped into the square, their armor gleaming under the moon, their weapons glowing faintly. They moved like predators circling their prey. One soldier stepped forward, his helmet reflecting the firelight from a distant torch. "Human," his voice was cold, sharp, "leave her, and we will let you live." The human tightened his grip on the knife, his answer firm. "She's not yours anymore." The crowd of soldiers hissed with laughter, their voices like grinding metal. "You think you can keep her?" One sneered. "She belongs to the Empire." "To the throne?" The girl shook her head, tears falling. "I don't belong to anyone," she whispered. But her voice was too soft against the night. The soldiers advanced, slow and certain. The human's mind raced. He could not win against so many. Yet he could not abandon her. His heart roared with one truth. He would rather die fighting than leave her in chains again. He stepped in front of her, his body a shield. "Run if you can," he whispered over his shoulder. But she clung to his arm, her voice trembling. "No, not without you." The soldiers lunged, their weapons flashing in the dark. The human dodged, his knife cutting against armor, sparks flying. He moved with desperation, striking, blocking, pushing back. But each step cost him strength. Each breath burned hotter. The girl cried out, reaching toward him, her glowing marks flaring brighter. The soldiers turned their gaze to her, their voices rising. "The key," one hissed. "Don't damage the key," the human realized then. She was not just hunted. She was precious to them, and that made her more dangerous in their hands. He slashed at another soldier, but their circle tightened, weapons pressing closer. The girl's marks glowed so bright they lit the square. Burning like fire beneath her skin, she gasped, clutching her arms as if the symbols were alive. The human turned, his eyes widening. "What's happening to you?" he shouted. Her body shook violently, the glowing lines spreading across her skin. "I can't." "Hold it," she cried, her voice breaking. The soldiers froze for a moment, their helmets reflecting the sudden light. Some stepped back, fear breaking their stillness. "She's awakening," one growled. "Stop her before it's too late." The human stood over her, his knife ready, his voice loud. "You'll have to go through me first." The soldiers roared, charging forward, their weapons raised, but the girl screamed, her voice echoing like thunder through the square. The light from her skin exploded outward. Bright and blinding, the soldiers stumbled, their armor crackling under the force, their weapons thrown aside. The human shielded her with his arms, the brilliance searing his vision, and in that instant, he knew the girl's hidden power was no curse, but something far greater. The square fell silent. The soldiers scattered and broken. The girl collapsed into his arms, weak, trembling, her glow fading, her lips moved, whispering faintly, "They will never stop. Not until they have me." The human held her tighter, his jaw set. "Then let them come," he said, his voice like steel. "They'll learn I don't let go." The square was silent, smoke rising from broken stalls and scorched stone. The armored soldiers lay scattered, some groaning, others too still to move. In the center, the human knelt, holding the alien girl in his arms. Her body was limp, her glowing marks dimmed after the burst of power that had shaken the street. Her eyes fluttered open, weak and glassy. "Did I kill them?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The human shook his head, his hand brushing the dirt from her hair. "No, but you stopped them," he said firmly, though his heart pounded with unease. The girl pressed her face against his chest, ashamed of the light that had come from her. "They will come again," she whispered, "and next time, they will bring more." The human looked around the broken square, his jaw tight. She was right, this was only the beginning. He lifted her gently and moved into the shadows, away from the open square. Every alley he crossed felt more dangerous than the last. Every flicker of light looked like a hunter's torch, but he carried her with steady steps, refusing to let fear guide him. At last, they reached the edge of the district. An old storage building stood half collapsed, its roof broken, its walls cracked. Inside, the darkness smelled of rust and damp wood. He set her down carefully against a beam, his knife never leaving his hand. For a moment the world was quiet. The girl breathed slowly, her fingers tracing the glowing marks on her arms. She looked up at him, her voice low. "You should leave me," she said. "If they catch you because of me, they will kill you." The human crouched beside her, his eyes steady. "I didn't buy you to abandon you," he said. Her lips trembled, tears filling her eyes. "No one has ever stayed. Not when the soldiers came." Her voice cracked, breaking the silence. "They always chose themselves." The human's jaw tightened, his chest heavy with the weight of her words. "I'm not them," he said quietly. "You're not alone anymore." Her tears slipped down her cheeks, but her eyes held something new. Trust. Fragile but real, yet before the moment could last. The sound of boots came again, this time louder, sharper, many more than before. The human's breath stilled. He rose to his feet, knife in hand. The girl's body shook, her marks glowing faintly again. "They found us," she whispered, fear twisting her voice. The door to the storage house rattled, then burst open. Armored soldiers poured inside, their glowing helmets lighting the dark. The human stepped in front of the girl, his body a shield, his voice calm but fierce. "You'll have to go through me." The first soldier lunged, his blade flashing. The human dodged, slamming his knife into the soldier's arm, sparks flying. Another rushed forward, swinging a heavy weapon. The human blocked with a broken beam, the wood cracking under the force. The girl cried out, her hands glowing brighter. But the human shouted back, "Don't! Save your strength." He fought with desperate fury. Every strike meant to buy her another breath, another second of freedom. But there were too many, their armor too strong, their circle too tight. One soldier's blade cut across his shoulder. Blood running down his arm, the girl screamed, trying to rise. But her body was too weak. The human stumbled, his knife slick in his hand. His vision blurring, he knew he could not win. Not like this. The soldiers closed in, their leader stepping forward, his voice cold as stone. "Step aside, human," he said. "She is not yours. She belongs to the Empire." The human spat blood, raising his knife again. "She belongs to no one," he growled. The leader's blade rose. Shining in the dim light, the girl reached out, her voice breaking. "No, please don't hurt him." Her glowing marks flared. Brighter than before, the soldiers hesitated, their helmets reflecting the sudden light. The human turned, his body weak but his voice strong. "Listen to me," he said to her. "You are not cursed. You are not theirs. Your power is yours and no one can take it." Her eyes widened, her hands shaking as the light spread across her skin. "But I'm afraid," she whispered. "So am I," he answered, his voice steady. "But fear doesn't decide who we are," the soldiers roared. Rushing forward, their weapons raised, the human stood tall, blood dripping, ready to face them even if it meant death. The girl's scream filled the air, her light bursting outward in a wave of fire and brilliance. The soldiers were thrown back, their weapons shattering, their armor sparking under the force. The human shielded his face, the heat burning against his skin. When the light faded, the soldiers lay broken on the ground, silent and unmoving. The girl collapsed into his arms, her breath shallow, her glow dimming once again. Her tears stained his shirt as she whispered weakly, "You could have left me. You could have saved yourself." The human brushed her hair back, his bloodied hand trembling but gentle. "I made my choice," he said softly. "If one of us has to fall, it won't be you." Her lips trembled, her voice breaking. "Why? Why risk everything for me?" The human's eyes held hers, steady and unshaken. "Because you're worth it," he answered. "More than you know." Outside, the city stirred with the sound of more soldiers gathering. The fight was not over, the danger far from gone. But inside that broken building, the bond between them was no longer fragile. It was forged in sacrifice, sealed in blood and unbreakable. The dawn was slow, the first rays of light crawling across the ruined city. The human stood at the cracked window of the storage house, his body aching, his shoulder bleeding behind him. The alien girl lay weak against a pile of cloth, her glowing marks dim but steady. The silence after the night's battle was heavy, almost unreal, but he knew it would not last. Outside, the city stirred like a waking beast. Merchants opened their stalls, pretending not to notice the soldiers who had not returned. Rumors spread like wildfire, whispers of a human who had stolen the marked one. Every whisper was another thread tightening around their necks. The girl opened her eyes slowly, her voice soft. "Are we safe?" she asked. The human turned, his expression calm though his heart carried the weight of truth. "For now," he said, "but they will come again." She pushed herself up weakly, her hands tracing the glowing lines along her arms. "I can't control it," she whispered, ashamed. "The power. It comes when I'm afraid, when I want to protect. But it burns me." Her voice cracked, her head lowering. "I am nothing but a danger to you." The human crouched beside her, lifting her chin with his blood-stained hand. "You are not a danger," he said firmly. "You are alive, you are free, and that makes you stronger than any chain." Her eyes filled with tears, shining with disbelief. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered. "They always saw me as a curse, as a weapon, never as a person." The human's chest tightened, his voice low. "Then let me be the first," he said. "You are not my slave, you are not their property. You are more." Her lips trembled, her breath catching. She pressed her forehead against his chest, her voice breaking. "Why do you care so much? You could have left me, you could still leave me." The human wrapped his arms around her, steady and sure. "Because I see you," he whispered. "Not a mark, not a chain, not a curse, but you." The moment hung heavy between them, fragile but unshakable. Then the sound came, distant at first but growing louder. Drums, boots, the march of an army. The girl's body stiffened, her eyes wide with fear. "They are coming," she whispered. "This time, they will not stop." The human rose, pulling her to her feet. His body was weak, his wounds deep, but his spirit unbroken. "We run," he said, "and if we cannot run, we fight." Together they slipped into the maze of streets. The morning light spilled across stone and dust, but shadows stretched long, hiding dangers. Every corner carried the echo of boots, every rooftop the glint of armor. The city itself seemed to turn against them, closing in. At the edge of the district, they reached the old walls. Beyond lay open land, mountains far in the distance. Freedom was there, waiting, but the path was blocked. Dozens of armored soldiers stood in formation, their weapons raised, their leader stepping forward. The leader's voice boomed across the street, cold and commanding. "Humans, surrender the marked one, and you may live." The girl clutched the human's arm, her voice trembling. "They will kill you," she whispered. Her eyes filled with tears. "Let me go, please." "Don't die for me." The human looked at her, his face set with steel. "You asked me to buy you, to take you away," he said softly. "I did, and I will not give you back, not to them. Not to anyone." The soldiers advanced, their weapons gleaming in the light. The girl's body shook, her marks glowing brighter with each step they took. Her tears fell as she whispered, "I can't hold it back this time. I don't want to hurt you." The human gripped her hands, steady and strong. "Then don't hold it back," he said. "Let it out, not for them, but for yourself." Her eyes widened, her heart pounding. All her life she had been told her power was a curse, a reason for chains, but now someone told her it was hers, not theirs. Her breath came sharp, her voice trembling. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Always," he answered without hesitation. The soldiers roared. Charging forward in unison, the girl screamed, her voice splitting the air. The glowing lines on her skin burst with light, brighter than the rising sun. The force exploded outward, shaking the ground, shattering weapons, breaking armor. The human held her close, shielding her as the storm of light consumed the street. When it ended, silence fell heavy. The soldiers lay scattered, the ground cracked, the air trembling with heat. The girl collapsed into his arms, her glow fading, her tears falling freely. She looked up at him, her voice weak but steady. "I am not a slave," she whispered. "I am more." The human brushed her hair back, his voice soft but strong. "You always were," he said. They just couldn't see it. The mountain stood beyond the ruins, silent and waiting. The human lifted her in his arms, each step heavy but filled with purpose. The city behind them was broken, the Empire's hunters defeated for now, but ahead lay a future unwritten, a journey only beginning. The girl pressed her face against his chest, her voice fading into sleep. "You gave me more than freedom," she whispered. "You gave me myself." The human looked to the horizon, his jaw tight, his heart steady. "You gave me a reason to fight," he whispered back. And together, walking into the dawn, they left the city of chains behind. Not as master and slave, not as curse and burden, but as two souls bound by choice, by trust, by something stronger than fear. For in the end, she was never just a slave. She was more, and with him she would never forget it.